As much as I may love Doom Knights thematically and mechanically, the new ROR especially, not that big of a fan of their non-unique aesthetic. Hopefully that gets addressed at some point. I mean, certainly the discs themselves look very cool, and not to say that I don't like the overall aesthetic of the heavy Chaos Warrior, but just they don't look unique at all, which is a little bit of a shame. Today I'm going to land battle against my patron Coops. Let's go over the builds real quick before we have some fun. I'm going with the dreaded Cultist caster builds. We've got Lore of Fire here on the Cultist, Fireball, Cascading Fire Cloak. The idea here is you just spam the two cheapest spells as much as possible to get Kindle Flame and Wand of Whimsy. The Lord is Exalted Lord of Change with just the Fury Summon. We've also got some Screamers of Tzeentch here, some Furies of Tzeentch. Got 5 blue horrors through the center, 2 pink horrors, and Exalted Flamer. I should mention this is being recorded before Creative Assembly. It's the weekend still. Creative Assembly hasn't had a chance to even address or talk about the ranged change yet, but yeah, look for hopefully news on that coming sometime this week. By the time you guys are actually seeing this, we'll see. I don't know. They haven't had a chance to react to it at all yet, but I am optimistic that we all have complained enough that they should change it back. Anyway, on the other side, we've got some more Screamers there for Kislev, led by Cultist, the anti-snipe lore, definitely a good choice. Also, the Regiment Renowned Oath Brothers of Tor. That magic damage, anti-large AP will be very dangerous for my Doom Knights. I've got to watch out for that. In the front line, got some armored Kossars, just pistol, axe, and shield. Some regular Kossars in the second line here, some spears out to the flanks, and ice guards in the back, one dual hand weapon, one glaive. These guys got an armor buff, and they also have a little bit of spell resistance now. Not too much, 15% is a tiny bit, but, you know, it's there. Got some more Kossar spears in the back, too. Let's get started. So the whole idea here is we're just going to basically abuse this Kindle Flame and Wand of Whimsy as much as we can. One important thing to note about Doom Knights, too, is they have basically like 2-to-1, basically, not quite, but more or less 2-to-1 split on their non-AP versus AP damage, so they do get quite a bit of benefit from the weapon damage portion, the Wand of Whimsy, given their relatively high weapon strength. So we're going to move them in here. The Firestorm gets ready. We're going to bathe some of these Kossars in flames. They fight back, obviously, pretty hard, but we're going to charge the dual hand weapons. These guys are meant to counter Furies, obviously. You know, Fury Rush, Furies count as infantry. The anti-infantry bonus of the Ice Guards will definitely deal with them, but the Tor Bros respond very quickly with Cultist in the front line. Just kind of taking an overall look. The Armored Kossars look like they're going to try and move up into melee rather than just taking it on the chin, although most of my blue ammunition has already been used up. You can see Lord of Change just kind of lurking on the flanks over here. Tzeentchian Fury is also moving in. Can fire through the back of them now without any issues. So, like previously, they would have taken horrendous friendly fire damage in this engagement. Probably would have died already, but now they can just, you know, sit there and be totally fine. Did manage to escape, thankfully. The Oath Brothers don't actually have Frostbite. You'd need something like Boris to provide that for you. I believe he got Frostbite in the most recent patch. I'd have to look in again and check. But more side-shotting fireballs from the Cultists, more shots from the Exalted Flamer, dumping a lot of resources going after these Oath Bros of Tor. Speaking of which, the Doom Knights are going to come over, try and get that immolation drop. Still kind of crazy to me that there are 5 of those. I think it's probably too many, but still. Looks very nice. And now they're going to drop down immediately. You can see in the back line, Blizzard's been used to go after one of my pinks there to deal some nice damage. Blues have managed to move up into combat and start breaking some units, but I am losing out on quite a bit of blues already. The Tzeentchian Furies are almost done too. We've got the, nasty side shot from that Exalted Flamer. Fireball follow-up to blasts a couple of my own Screamers perhaps, but those Ice Guards are just getting absolutely roasted out there. And yeah, I did lose my Tzeentchian Furies, but the regular Furies now come to play once more. And once more, also, the Knights of Immolation can get away from the Oath Brothers once the engagement turns against them. Initially, you know, with the drop, that drop provides, you know, armor debuff. It provides extra weakness to fire and a little bit of damage, right? Of course, with the Warp Flame contact effect. Definitely, in this situation, it might be good to take a Lord of Change of Metal, just so you can literally only take Plague of Rust. Like, I probably wouldn't even take the lore attribute either. Literally just Plague of Rust for occasional high-value targets. Might have actually been very beneficial here, but it's all good. It's Fireball swing and a miss there, but still provides that Kindle Flame. See that ticking down for another 5 seconds there on those Kossars. They're extra weak to fire. I've been getting a huge amount of value from that. Big Bird's now going to swoop down, but the thing about Kislev, they'll hold for a substantial amount of time, and the relatively low leadership of Tzeentchian, at least the Tzeentchian Demon Force I've brought here, does mean that a lot of the blues and pinks have run for the hills already. I'm also completely out of ammunition on the Exalted Flamer there, so these Kislev characters I'm going to have to finish the old-fashioned way in melee, and I definitely don't want a fair fight between Cultist and the Fell Bird here. The Exalted Lord of Change, although he is a very potent combatant because of Cultist's survivability attributes, him getting progressively more powerful as he takes damage, it's going to mean that the Lord of Change, I mean, obviously he wants to take advantage of the advantages that he has, which is mainly flying and the barrier. It looks like, no, now the second Fury Summon coming in. So saving it for the late game, a little bit of a power spike. You notice the balance of power tilted pretty heavily in that extra little burst of damage there in the Fury Summon. We're going to send them after the anti-large Ice Guards and move in Doom Knights once again. Knights of Immolation coming in super clutch here, going after these dual hand weapon Ice Guards. Also providing, yeah, just in general, a little bit of shock and awe power here. A little bit of an anvil for the hammer of the missiles of these pink horrors, who are also getting bombarded from the side. A couple of armored Kossars, regular Kossars back. Have some fun, continue firing there. You can see the Exalted Pink Flamer also just kind of tangling with some Kossars, trying to keep them routed more or less. The Exalted Flamer maybe could come help in this single entity fight, but he's super squishy, so for the time being, I'm just going to keep him away. Try and just utilize my flying units to finish this off. Summon Furies are almost done, but they definitely have helped finish off those Ice Guards just about. Cultist is also running around. He's definitely not cut out for combat against bear characters by any means. Even this caster would be able to handle him pretty well, I would imagine, just because the armor difference, and even though they have about the same weapon strength, I mean, obviously, AP does matter in that the Tzeentch Cultist has about 50 armor, if I remember right. Let's take a look. 45 armor. Yeah, maybe not. I mean, it matters a little bit, I guess, but anyway. Big Bird's now going to come in 2v1. It's also relatively dangerous, but the Doom Knights can provide a little bit of an extra buffer. The attack animations of the bear characters will get distracted into the Doom Knights. They won't necessarily all be attacking the, yeah, they won't all be hitting the Lord of Change here. You can see he is even taking so few hits. He managed to replenish his barrier a little bit there in combat, which is kind of impressive, all things considered. But a few more Ice Guards come back. These armored Kossars do get into combat and actually almost finish off those pink horrors there, but not before army losses kicks in. Honestly, I mean, besides Big Bird being so healthy, and I guess the Cultist too, and and the Exalted Flamer, so I guess really all three of my single entities relatively healthy. What's weighing on the balance of power so heavily, even though, I mean, the game doesn't know from a balance of power perspective, I don't think that the Exalted Lord of Change actually doesn't have any spells. I'd have to double check with the dev and see if that is the case, but I want to say that the power level of spellcasters is set, and it doesn't matter if you have spells on them or not. I don't know if that's true, but don't quote me on that, but yeah. I'll double check on that and get back to you guys. By the time this video goes live, maybe I'll have a clarification in the comments. Maybe not, though. Anyway, great game to Coops there. Definitely an interesting battle, nonetheless. Exalted Lord of Change didn't actually end up getting that much value, but the Terror was pretty nice in certain situations, and just generally having that big monstrous presence forced Coops to respond in many ways, kind of peel resources away from other points in the battlefield, which then allowed my two other power units to shine here. The Doom Knights here, the Knights of Immolation. If used correctly, these guys are disgusting, especially against a faction that doesn't have any flying tools to counter you, like Kislev. They can just kind of ride with impunity and get lots of good immolating drops, and especially the synergy of the immolating drop and then immediately charging in, maybe with a Plague of Rust, maybe you throw a Cascading Fire Cloak on them, since they already have pretty good defensive stats. That extra melee defense will mean they basically take no damage, right, in melee. And then, of course, they get the damage spike of Kindle Flame and the extra melee attack and weapon strength of Wand of Whimsy. So really, there's a lot to like about Cascading Fire Cloak from the Cultist here. Likewise, Exalted Flamer, able to use up all his ammunition relatively unopposed due to kind of the immobility of Coop's build here. The pinks and the blues, I mean, they do their thing. A lot of them do pay for themselves. Some of them don't. Some of them do not. 156 kills on these blues. I think they managed to chase some units that got terror routed or something. Anyway, flying units did okay. Screamers do pay for themselves, which is nice to see. Konstantin struggles on the value, but I mean, he's here to tank. Like I said, he's the not get sniped lord for Kislev, so very solid at that. Frost Maiden also did okay. I did dedicate a lot of resources to taking out the Oath Bros, so I'm not really surprised to see them struggle a little bit. A lot of the sort of lower to mid-tier units of Kislev do okay, but interestingly enough, it seems like, given the damage on done to my army, like there's not that much damage value here, and I guess some of that is because my single entities didn't end up taking that much damage. Apologies, my cat totally bumps into my microphone stand. But I think Tzeentch ends up taking quite a bit of banishment damage because of that lowish leadership on blues, especially. If you go with a pretty blue-heavy force, it looks like a lot of units didn't pay for themselves, even though they probably did because the blue just disintegrated. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed watching this. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.